First of all, I saw your tweet earlier today saying that you were going to dance around your office if Richemont hit 40 Rand. It didn't. It closed at 38 Rand 98, so you didn't do your jig, but you're going to do it next week.
I was pretty close. I mean, we've been taking targets, haven't we, the last couple of days, and this one is close, so I reckon it's an easy chip and a putt to 40 for Richemont. What a story, though. I mean, in 18 months, it's basically gone from 13 Rand a share to 40. So it was a good one to have gotten into just after that unbundling, and a lot of people thought that luxury goods were totally finished during that, slump in 08 and 09, but clearly the sales numbers came through. And
you've done very well out of this one. You bought it at the right time. You've still got it.
Well, we always liked the idea that the emerging market footprint was going to drive their sales forward, but we were very resistant to the idea that it had that cigarette stake in it. So you'll remember that prior to the reorganization of the Rupert family companies, they had everything intertwined. So if you bought Richemont, you got a stake in British America Tobacco. And we didn't like the cigarette holding. Once that came out, the opportunity to buy it for clients was there.
Diversified industrials. Would you invest in the likes of Remgro, Roynet, and of course Bidvest, the big one?
Well, I'm here to be controversial and provocative. So
really? Is that your mandate?
I must say, I'm not really a big fan of those. I mean, the Remgro results came out yesterday before we had a chance to digest them. But, it's really just a combination of stakes in underlying industrial businesses and some mining and some finance and so on, some of which is listed, so you could buy them yourselves. Others, I will concede, are
not listed, and
Total,
that's where management can bring value to the party?
So
or do you not agree?
But I must say, I'm not convinced. I think it's a relic of the past in terms of those old industrial empires where you couldn't go outside of South Africa. So you got those industrial groups like Barlow's Group, and the Tiger Group had all those things in it. Anglo owned everything from motor cars to newspapers. And it's kind of in the process of unbundling, but it's still a little bit of a lost
So you
hero.
Don't put much faith in Tace Vista and his management team at Remgro, do you?
You'd have to be completely convinced that the management team was going to unlock gems for you. But for me, it feels like a bit of a holding operation, and it's a bit of a run-off case. I would like to see them be much more aggressive about disposals in the portfolio and then maybe take it private.
What about Bidvest? And let's hope for your sake Brian Joffe's not listening, because I don't think that this is going to be complimentary.
Yeah, and our offices are next to his, so I run the risk of getting punched in the lift. I think that is a slightly different case. I mean, at least those businesses bear some relation to each other, and they're broadly in the services and catering and related industries. But I still think there's a bit of a case for where one division's doing well, another one's not. Not a lot of earnings transparency, so you really have to back the management team. The problem with backing a management team, if you're a long-term investor, is what happens if the management person you love so much is not there anymore. Same reason why in our international portfolios we wouldn't be buyers of Berkshire Hathaway, because as much as we like Warren Buffett, he can't last forever.
MTN, key story today, BEE capital raising, and Shanduka and Cyril Ramaphosa in for 187 million Rand. Are you going to back those boys?
Okay, remember the thing that they've taken stakes in is a structure which has MTN shares, some leverage, and depending on how MTN goes and the dividends they pay, it's going to convert at a later stage into more MTN shares. But it's clearly a great opportunity for black South Africans to increase their stake there. And in a way, I guess it's a vote of confidence that the chairman of the board, has leveraged that kind of money to come in and back and pick up an increased stake.
As much as it is a negative that Putuma and Hleko, Santi Botha, all right, they are both outgoing, I'll give you that, but Karl Pienaar, all selling out of MTN shares, and management always say this is a rebalancing of their portfolios. They need a little bit more diversification. Is that the reality?
Well, look, Putuma is leaving, but the transaction recently that went through the press suggested that he was selling all of his stakes. It looked to me more like a reorganization based on some geared trades he'd done a year or so ago. I don't see that that's a particularly big thing. When you're dealing with a small company and your management team owns 50% of the business and they're selling, you should be worried. But when you're talking about a company with a market cap in excess of 150 billion Rand and there's a little bit of movement at the margin, it's not really a big issue. Okay,
our time is up. Let's remind viewers your picks this week. It was Naspers, potentially going to 400 by the end of the year. We're at 370 Rand. So you've got 30 Rand to make up in just 1 month. And then it was also Richemont.
Richemont is the one we're talking about today. And the other one was African Bank, trading at around 36, 37, also going for something with a 4.